Good evening, night owls of pop culture and keen observers of the show behind the show. Welcome back to Turkish series stars, the cozy corner of the internet where we don't just repeat headlines, we peel them back and read the heartbeat underneath. Tonight, we're walking straight into a storm that began with a whisper and swelled into a wave. At the center of it all are two names you know well. Yagmar, a spark of spontaneity whose every step sends ripples through the timeline, and Barış, a master of restraint who usually lets silence do the talking. But what happens when the quiet one drops a line that lands like thunder? One sentence, short, sharp, and loaded, tilted the gossip universe on its axis. Was it a wink? A warning? Or a mirror held up to an audience hungry to judge a woman who refuses to shrink? Before we dive in, you know the ritual that keeps this place fearless. Tap subscribe, warm up that like button, and if you want to walk with us behind the velvet rope, hit join. Your support keeps Turkish series stars independent, curious, and unafraid to ask the questions others won't. Now, let's rewind to the line that set everything ablaze. For weeks, the chatter mill has spun almost exclusively around one magnetic center, Yagmar. Every candid aside, every unguarded smile, every offhand remark has mutated into a headline. She hasn't just played the game, she's changed its pace. We saw her bold, unscripted commentary about Meryem Üzerli at the Joy Awards, pure, unfiltered, and daring enough to make PR managers clutch their pearls. We watched the hand kiss at the Gülşen concert, a gesture that tradition reads as respect but social media examined like a scandal under fluorescent light. And then came the admission that made the room gasp, "I'm glad I didn't meet Tarkan." Just when the noise around her quick wit and playful audacity peaked, a figure known for stillness stepped forward. Enter Barış, careful, composed, enigmatic. He doesn't toss words around, he keeps them under lock and key. And yet, in a moment that felt like a camera flash in a dark theater, a single quip slipped out and set everything alight. Yagmar might call me uncle soon. There are phrases that don't just travel, they detonate. As soon as this one broke free, it was sliced from its setting, polished into a weapon, and hurled across feeds until it stopped sounding like a joke and started feeling like a verdict. The effect was immediate, and it was nuclear. Picture the board. On one square, Yagmar, riding a wave of high-energy openness that splits opinion cleanly in two. On another, Barış, disciplined and careful, a man who treats his public image like a glass sculpture, only handled with gloves. Between them, the line itself, half teasing, half hint, perfectly engineered for the social machine that feeds on ambiguity. How did we arrive here? Depending on which whisper you follow, the comment was made at a recent gathering, maybe during a backstage chat, maybe at the edge of a step and repeat. He was asked about the swirl around Yagmar. His answer was crisp, dry, and dangerously easy to misread. Yagmar might call me uncle soon. From that moment, screens lit up. Why this line? Why this impact? If a comedian had tossed it off, it would have dissolved within the hour. But this was Barış. The man who treats tabloid questions like potholes, avoid at all costs. For him to hop into the ring with a little jab, and a pointed one, felt like a shrug thrown in the face of a carefully built mystique. It shocked. It delighted. It infuriated. And like a match in dry brush, it spread. The instant reaction was a chorus of split emotions. Did Barış really say that? It's a joke, lighten up. Funny, but is it necessary? And behind those takes, the theories began to braid themselves into narratives. Was it a friendly jab rooted in a history we, the public, can't fully trace? Or a refined way of stepping back from Yagmar's recent, unusually familiar interactions with other heavyweights? To untangle the jab, we have to understand the target. Why has Yagmar become the lightning rod? In the murmur chambers of insiders, three threads keep reappearing. First, she has dropped the porcelain mask. The version of the perfect starlet who smiles on cue and only speaks in polished fragments, gone. What looks impulsive to some is, to others, a conscious reclaiming of her voice. Second, she's moved into a rare altitude of autonomy. She doesn't need to blend in. If she wants to kiss a hand, she will. If she wants to question a sacred cow, she won't wait for the chorus to approve. Power makes people uneasy. Independence makes them interrogate every move as though it's a crime. Third, she deflects with humor. When scolded, she smirks. When cornered, she quips. The establishment expects contrition. Instead, they get playfulness, light, irreverent, and disarming. Now let's talk about the word that lit the fuse, uncle. In Turkish social codes, titles like Dey or Amca are layered. They acknowledge age, sure, but they also sketch a ladder. They sketch distance. They can be affectionate or faintly patronizing, depending on how they're worn. So when Barış said, Yagmar might call me uncle soon, what was he signaling? Was he calling her youthful to a fault, casting her as the lively kid in a circle of grown-ups? Or was he nudging at the etiquette of her recent gestures? The hand kiss to Gülsen, the visible deference to icons, hinting that she's turning every colleague into an elder? Some read it as parody, the final bead on a string of jokes about her leaning into industry hierarchy. Others saw something else, a gentle push back against the heat that has gathered around her spontaneity. The audience split, as it always does, into two fervent camps. The first, the chill, it's banter club, waved receipts of shared history. They insisted that the chemistry between these two has always included quick teasing, ironic glances, and a private language of wry asides. To them, the line was a handshake we weren't meant to decode. The second camp, the watch the subtext squad, thought the timing was off and the tone skewed. With Yagmar already carrying the weight of 1,000 critiques for daring to be loud, messy, playful, did she really need her male counterpart to salt the wound? Was it a wink, or a way of reminding her where the invisible boundaries lie? But what's the truth behind the curtain? According to the hum from the inner pages, the reality is plainer and less dramatic than the trending threads suggest. When word of the line reached Yagmar, there were no tears. There was laughter. The phrase making its way through her circle is this: everyone keeps writing their own script and casting me in it. I'm just enjoying the show. In one breath, she turned the lens around. She knows she's the main character of the moment. If others want to improvise around her, she'll let them. That's her power now, calm amid the chorus. As for Barış, the picture is equally human. Those close to the Whisper Factory say he didn't intend to feed a blaze. It was a throwaway aside, a dry bead of humor that shriveled on the page when stripped of tone and context. But once the line turned into a headline and then into a debate, his frustration sharpened, not at Yagmar, but at the conveyor belt that churns quips into weapons. He's spent years crafting a profile that resists spectacle, and suddenly one sideways smile became a cannon shot. No matter the intent, a hairline crack has appeared in the pristine portrait that is serious, still, and above the fray Barış. For some, this is good news. Finally, a flash of personality, they said, almost triumphant. For others, the mystery dimmed. I wish he hadn't stepped in, they sighed, wary of idols who become too human too fast. And where is Yagmar now? Watching. That's her language when storms kick up. She has always been more likely to answer with a playful story than a press release. If you know her rhythm, you can almost feel the tease loading, a cheeky caption, maybe a photo dialing uncle to a lamp, a dog, a chair, anything that turns a headline into a punchline. The joke becomes a boomerang. The sting becomes a shrug. And we have to stop and ask you, yes, you, the tribunal of Turkish series stars, what do you make of the uncle affair? Was Barış riffing like a brother teasing a sister, or did he step into a storm and choose the worst possible umbrella? Is Yagmar being punished for daring to be herself, or has she mastered the art of turning the lens and making the story work for her? Drop your verdict below. And remember, if you want us to keep threading needles through the noise, join as our lifeline. Your support keeps the lights warm and the questions sharp. This flashpoint has dragged an old, tired pattern back into the light, the double standard of humor. When a man deadpants, he's clever. When a woman improvises, she's reckless. When Barış mints a cryptic line, he's intriguing. When Yagmar makes a playful quip about a legend like Tarkan, she's disrespectful. Same stage, different spotlights. The story isn't new, but every time it plays out in real time, it hurts to watch. It also teaches. The reaction reveals not just what people think of them, but what people think should be allowed. One brief sentence. One sprawling ripple. Yagmar might call me uncle soon. On another night, it might have floated away. But tonight it met the perfect storm. A woman turning visibility into velocity, and a man famous for vanishing into privacy stepping out for a beat and being heard. That collision turned a small joke into a bookmark for an entire era of celebrity discourse. Here's the simplest truth, both are giants. They don't orbit one another, they pull tides. When their names collide in a single headline, the current rises, and everyone feels the undertow, friends, critics, and spectators alike. As in every drama unfolding under 1,000 tiny screens, the biggest tempests can begin with a flick of irony, a half-smile, a word chosen for timing rather than eternity. So, has the uncle line tilted your view of their chemistry? Has it changed the way you read Barış's cultivated distance or Yagmar's joyful risk-taking? Is she being sculpted by a bored machine, or is she the sculptor, chipping away with laughter until all that's left is her own outline? We'll be watching for her reply, whether it lands as a wink, a story, or a playful silence that says everything without saying anything at all. Keep your eyes open, your timelines patient, and your skepticism warm. This was a special dispatch from Turkish series stars. Like, subscribe, and if you're ready to walk past the curtain with us, hit join. The stage lights are on, the audience is buzzing, and the next line, careful, sly, and sure to be overanalyzed, is already on someone's tongue.